I have two teams that both you'll laugh at, but in terms of who they're playing against.
So you're planning to save teams.
I have a whole 20-week plan built out.
Oh, no.
You gotta go week to week.
You can't go 20 weeks.
Well, of course, I'm not going to already. You reevaluate, but
Yeah.
you have to save the Cowboys for Thanksgiving because you have to pick a game on Thanksgiving.
I didn't know that.
And you have to pick a game on Christmas.
I think it's a whole separate deal.
And so there's certain teams you can't use, so I can't use.
Don't worry about that now.
I know, you're not gonna be around.
Mic test, 1 2 1 2, mic test. Good. North Dakota is, the poll just came out today. They are now 13 in the FCS poll, coaches poll. And I'll know Coach will talk to their strengths, but we'll go ahead and get going now with Coach.
All right, I just want to start off by thanking Bronco Nation for the awesome showing on Saturday. That stadium was electric. It was awesome to be back in Albertson Stadium. We're very grateful for that sellout crowd, and looking forward to our next opportunity in Albertson Stadium. Like we just talked about, it's going to be bright and early on Saturday morning, which calls for our preparation to be on point throughout the course of the week. And when you play that early on a Saturday morning, you also lose a little bit of that prep time on Saturday. So making sure that when we get to bed on Friday night, we are ready to go. And we had a good practice on Sunday yesterday. It was good to get the players back in here, obviously, to look at the game and see the areas where we can grow as we go into week number 3. And was excited about what the players brought to the table. Not only in our practice, but in our meetings, the things that we talked about and the things that we know that, we can correct to continue to grow, to have the team that we're capable of having. And I'm really excited, too, to, in this next week to be able to see these guys third week in a row. We've got a lot of young players playing and the progress they made. A lot of guys played in this last game and really improved. So looking forward to making another jump this week. Going to need to because we got another huge challenge. North Dakota's ranked number 13 in FCS, has one of the top offenses, that leads FCS in total offense and is second in scoring. So there are definitely players on this team coming in here that can play at any level and have shown to do that. The team being too that they've made the playoffs the last 3 out of 4 years. So we got a huge challenge coming in here. Saturday morning, and we're excited to be back in Albertson Stadium and have Bronco Nation out there.
Where's the confidence level of the team right now? And we saw DJ come in, and he was literally in tears after the game talking about just how much it meant to him and how disappointed he was with the start because of how hard guys are fighting. I mean, at 0-2, I guess, what was the mental state of the team right now?
Yeah, like we just said, I mean, it was awesome yesterday what the team brought in here in the team meeting room and how they came to the workout and came to the practice. I think DJ was he had told me after that he was asked a question about Marco, and he was so fired up about how Marco played in that game and how he laid it on the line and the plays Marco made, that it made him emotional up here, which goes to show you how much these guys care about each other. And an older guy teaching a younger guy, and then seeing him have the success and some of the plays Marco made the other night. When I was visiting with DJ after in the locker room, it was more about that than, obviously there was you lose a game on the last play, you miss blocking a field goal by about 6 inches, like we said, you blocked the field goal, we're still the same team, we got a different record. And at the end of the day, we control what we control, and that's moving forward and continuing to grow. Again, we will have a good team. We're going to have a good season, and the team knows that. And they know, and we've discussed the work yesterday about the work that we need to put in each and every day.
You mentioned their offense, and their quarterback's a very accurate passer. What do you see out of him?
I mean, he's diligent. He's a quarterback that, he's one of the most efficient passers, through the course of this season already. He's got some good wide receivers now too. They spread the ball around. Bo is number one, their wide receiver. He's their primary target, but they got other guys that can stretch the field as well. They got some slot wide receivers that are the movers within their offense that they get the ball to as well. But whether it's drop back pass, play actions, Tommy's done a nice job throughout the course of the pass game.
What did you think of, I know you mentioned a little bit after the game, but when you go back and watch the film, what stood out to you about what Marco did, and how has he kind of earned those reps over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean there was just in the run game there towards really in the second half, he got into rhythm, and he was really reacting to his keys well, and made some plays in the alley, one-on-one tackles in the alley against some speed. That team that we played last week had elite speed, at the skill positions. And so it was awesome to see Marco make some plays in the open field space. As a linebacker, obviously that is a critical component, and we're going to see some of the same schemes this week, so that Marco's going to prepare this week to be able to be as productive and efficient as he was, especially in the second half last week.
Sticking with Marco, just how after the injury last year, how hungry was he just to get back? And was last year kind of a year he was expecting to take the step he's taken right now?
Yeah, he was on track to do that last year when he got banged up, and I'll be honest with you, Marco, even through the course of his rehab in the offseason, just the energy, the mentality he brings, the vibe he brings, he did such an unbelievable job, and obviously our medical team as well, with his rehab and his return to play. And it's just awesome to see a guy put in so much hard work into getting back on the field and then getting on the field and early on in the season showing the growth. You talk about a guy that's grew from week 1 to week number 2, and what he was able to do, his role increase in week number 2. And obviously as we progress through the season, we would love to see him continue to progress and grow and give him more opportunities.
How much has the game slowed down for Ashton Jeanty over the last year?
Yeah, whether it's in the run game or the pass game, he's shown to be extremely productive. And it's exciting to get the ball in his hands, and obviously there's other guys around him too. The offensive line continues to do a good job. The tight ends within the blocking, then obviously the wide receivers on the perimeter, but just to be able to feature him in the pass game as well. Find ways to get him more touches in the pass game. We had an explosive play for a touchdown out of the backfield, in terms of the pass game last week, which was cool to see him finish those plays, those runs.
You've obviously been here, guys like Jay Ajayi and Jeremy McNichols and Alexander Madison, and those guys would get 40, touches in a game, and I think you had 29 last week, and he didn't really it didn't seem like it affected him. He still seemed pretty fresh. How much can he handle if called upon?
Yeah, he did a great job this past week handling the load. And then yesterday, again, just coming back in here, and obviously when you carry the rock as much as he did on Saturday, he was naturally a little sore, but he was awesome. He's good in shape and getting his body ready to go again this week. And that's the awesome part about him, is not just what he's doing on the field, but how he's maturing. There comes a maturity level too off the field to take care of your body, so you can continue to perform like that, make sure you square away and organize your time so that, you know, you can continue to perform at that level. Because if we don't, obviously, then you'll fall off. So it's awesome to see him take the step forward, not only on the field, but off the field as well.
You wince a little bit when he tries to do those hurdles?
When the tackler does not go low, slightly. But you know what? I mean, when you got the vertical he does, and he basically jumped over somebody standing straight up and down from full stride, it's pretty impressive. It's awesome. I mean, he's done stuff like that in practice, let alone in games. And so it's, you know, it's awesome to just see a guy play the game and have fun and attack. And that's where we're growing in terms of some of our younger players too. Getting that feel where the game is going to start to slow down for some of the other guys, where they can play with that passion and cut it loose and be efficient with what it is that they need to get done.
Like two teams the caliber you have to start the season, man. I know the stats are what they are, but how is that as a coach, that process where you don't want to make major changes or stay with the course based on who you've played versus who you have, you know, talent-wise coming up?
Well, I always know this. I mean, keeping perspective is always a huge part of what we do. Again, you know, if it goes different on the last play last week, we're still the same team, right? But obviously it didn't. So it's keeping perspective and really figuring out how we're going to continue to grow. We played more players last week too, against it, you know, especially on defense. We played a lot more players, you know, across the board at all levels, which was awesome, and those guys did a good job. So now we come back in this week and we continue to get some of these guys reps. You know, Ty Benefield plays safety as a true freshman, you know, did a good job. Zion was able to get in there and spill tubes a little bit, did a good job. Now it's continue to make that progress, because this is going to be a long season, 1 week at a time, and the quicker we can continue to progress and grow with those guys. And obviously there's guys in the front too that we need to keep making that progress with, because we got to have the depth. And when you come in to start to play the season with two opponents like that, and you're still continuing to build that dependable depth, well, you're going to give some up. What I'm really proud of is how we stepped up in the red zone last week, like we said we need to, and we played it about as best we have in a long time in the red zone and created takeaways, and for the most part, you know, held the opponent to field goals.
Kind of along those lines, Markel saw a big jump in
Yeah.
snaps this last week. How much do you guys need him?
Yeah, that goes right. Markel goes right along with Marco. I mean, it was awesome. I was so happy for Markel to get in there. Obviously, as we spoke about, it's you know, the return to play isn't always the same for everybody. And for Markel, being able to see him jump in there last week and really get some quality reps and defend some deep balls and play well and do some things, and the way he practiced last week too, that was awesome. Markel was back out there, and you know, as we continue to progress and one game at a time, and Markel, we continue, you know, to up the pitch count and allow him to play more and more. That's going to be huge for our secondary. You know, obviously with JC continuing to grow, Armarion is coming on. No, he's playing two different positions for us right now in the secondary, you know, as we continue to build the depth so that we can get more guys in there.
Maybe they did rotate more bodies. Maybe the exception was kind of on the edges. Ahmad and Dimitri, they were, I think they played 95% of the snaps, if not more. What do you need to see out of the guys behind to spell them if you need to? Right.
We, you know, and that's on us too. You know, being able to mix in. Tyler's done a good job. Jaden Virgin has done a good job. You know, really, I mean, Tyler's had two of his best practice weeks coming up here, and so the ability to rotate those guys. I mean, the reality is up front, we need 8 guys that can play with no fall off, and so we're pretty confident of how those guys are growing here in the last couple weeks. This is going to be a huge week. I mean, again, we worked yesterday on a Sunday practice. We worked. I mean, we're on the sleds, working pass rush with the front guys and the edge guys, and so we're going to start fast tomorrow morning, and we're going to make sure that, you know, we have at least 8, and we're rotating through there, if not more. And again, that's critical. A critical part of having a successful team is being able to build that depth is early on in the season.
What does Breezy add to the running back room, especially after a game like Saturday where you had a couple guys down?
Yep. So, and it's next man up mentality, right? And it just happened to be Breezy's opportunity to jump in there and help out in the backfield. I think after he got his first play, and the nerves probably settled down a little bit for him, and it was awesome to see what he's capable of doing. He had a nice few runs inside, outside on the perimeter. again, we've got a bunch of young players that are really talented. It's just about the growth and maturity process and doing it at this level and what it looks like to prepare and get ready every week. But we can see that, against a team like we played last week, Breezy has the ability to contribute and be productive, which is very exciting.
Like the last 2 weeks, at different points, Talon and the receivers have just didn't seem to be on the same page. I don't know if you've seen it the same way, but how do you fix that going into game 3? And is that something where it's just going to take time?
Well, definitely there's, and that's something we stress all the time now, is that pre-snap and winning the pre-snap, being able to communicate, and specifically there, in the middle of the game, in the middle of the second quarter, actually, there's 2 moments when I can remember they were back-to-back when we weren't on the same page. So, number one, that starts with us and making sure that the communication is clear on what we are doing between the players, and then the players, obviously being able to rep those things and being on the same page, and then it comes down to the execution of doing our job, making sure that when we get the communication, we're executing what we communicated to each other. So as we continue to build the offense, and in particular the pass game, having the ability to make those adjustments in the pre-snap is going to be critical. So it's a must. It's imperative that we communicate well, we know what we're communicating, and we are able to execute those things.
How would you rate Talon's game through 2 games?
Obviously he came out the last game because we're working through some cramps and stuff like that. It was awesome by Mad Dog being ready as always to jump in there. Again, we've had some bright moments, and then we had some moments where we got to communicate. We just talked about one. We got to be better with our communication and our efficiency in terms of our execution. Take what the defense gives us. There's going to be plays when it's not there. The maturity to be able to move on, go on to the next play, and just be able to play the game in that manner, where it's one play at a time, one series at a time, and grow from quarter to quarter. And that's what we discussed coming out of the last game, and very excited about the plan collectively that we put together to be able to have him do that.
The quarterbacks we've seen in the last 2 games have been really good.
Say it again, sorry.
The quarterbacks
Yes.
we've faced have been very good. Schuster looks like he's got really good numbers for them. So what does he bring to the table, and what are your thoughts, and what are your thoughts on facing him?
Yeah, I mean, we're three games. The first 3 games we're playing pretty explosive offenses. North Dakota has a fair amount of offense. They're going to have movers in the pre-snap, motions, shifts, multiple formations and sets. They do a good job of personnelling where certain guys are and being able to get those guys the ball. I mean, they run the ball for over 200 yards a game. Their O-line is big and physical, and so then you put a quarterback in there who, when you look at his efficiency in the passing game, is as high as some of the guys that we have played in the first couple games. He's got wide receivers that can run. He's got wide receivers that can run as well as, some of the players that we've already seen this year. So when you put all those things together, and again, as we spoke about, whether it's the drop back pass game and the progression reads and or the play actions, he can make all those throws. He makes them on the run. He makes them from the pocket. His number will be a number in the run game. There are designed run plays for him within their offense as well.
What are you seeing, Andy? Accountability. BJ mentioned DJ crying. You're seeing in the building, and obviously it starts with you. Are you encouraged with maybe some of the accountability that comes with an 0-2 in this building?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody in here yesterday was, thrilled to be 0-2. I know we weren't. I mean, the bottom line is, though, the only thing you get to do is respond and come back, and how are you going to do that? And that's the part that we're talking about. Is we had a Sunday where there was real conversation of perspective, though, too. Real perspective of what is really, and only the cool part is that the guys in this building know and understand what are the things that we need to do to be successful as we move along 1 week at a time here. And everybody's pretty confident that we can be successful 1 week at a time, so long as we understand what the preparation process looks like, the consistency that goes into it that's going to allow us to be consistent regardless of who we're playing. Okay, we've already talked about the opponents we played in the first couple weeks. That doesn't matter. It matters about us and how we grow to be consistent, whether it's on offense, whether it's on defense, whether it's in the special teams. We've done good things. Obviously the record in itself doesn't show, what we've been able to do in the run game. The record itself, doesn't show how, our punter is doing a really good job flipping the field and creating field position. How we played in the red zone, how we limited a team last week, to the least amount of points they've been limited to in a long time with that offense. So, the bottom line is, again, it's exciting to see what the guys did yesterday coming back here, and how they've been this morning. And we're going to have the opportunity to get back on grass tomorrow and get to work.
Jonah had a little trouble in week 1 against Washington. I know you're always going to have confidence in him, but for him to bounce back, hit a tie a school record with a
Yep.
field goal, just, what's that say about his confidence in himself?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, even in the first week, I mean, he locked right back in and got that. I mean, that's the next play mentality. And again, to be able to, take that shot we did on the 56-yard field goal, and for him to make it through. I mean, we showed the clip in the meetings yesterday about, practice execution equals game day reality, and we showed a clip of him kicking a field goal from roughly the same spot in practice, and it's what he did in the game. When you practice a certain way, when you're intentional and your focus is the way it is throughout the course of a practice, when it comes time to make a play in a game, when your number gets called, more times than not, you're going to be ready to roll.
You make of the downfield passing attack through 2 games, and it seems like you guys are racking up a lot of yards on the screen passes and some of the shorter stuff. But in terms of actually throwing, deep down the field, how do you think that is, or should there be more? Or what do you think?
I believe, like last game, there was more opportunities with that. Definitely, there could have been, and there was more opportunities with that last week. In the first game, I thought we took a fair amount of passes down the field. That's somewhere where I believe we have, the players at all positions necessary to be able to do that. And, I'm excited to see how we build forward on that and build a consistency where we're efficient with those when we decide to use those plays. And again, I'm excited about the players we have that can stretch the field, and obviously the quarterback's ability to push the ball down the field.
Sense, but when you have the running game that everyone knows you have, how much do you need to be able to connect some of those downfield passes?
Yeah, they're going to load the box, right? And that's where I did feel like there was points in the game on Saturday where that could have been an option, and probably should have been an option at times for us to be able to stretch the field a little bit. When teams are going to load the box.
With the defense giving up 1,100 yards in these first 2 games, are you seeing anything on film that concerns you, or these things are going to be able to figure themselves out?
So, I mean, like we spoke about after the game, the first game and this past game, I mean, it always comes down to fundamentals and techniques, and that's what it is. I mean, for us, how we're teaching it, the consistency of that, how we're executing it at practice, as we said, practice reps and execution become game day reality. So the consistency at practice and then trusting that training, when we get in the game, making sure that a lot of it comes down to communication and eye control. It's nothing overly complicated, but it's trusting the training and the preparation. And again, that comes down to us, starting with me, of how we're training the defense, how we're putting a plan together, and how we're training. And there was great improvement. Like you talk about, for example, I mean, Rodney needs to continue to improve, but the way Rodney played in coverage this past week was way better than the way we played in the first week. And, we're down there on the, whatever it was, the third or fourth play of the game in the red zone, and he plays really, really good technique in a man situation, and, causes a pass breakup, turns into a tip ball in the air, and Tubes catches an interception. We got to build off of that. When guys stick to their training and how their coaches are teaching them, we'll see a higher level of consistency come along with that.
I know you said that Garrett Kern has obviously practiced at center previously, but to see what he's done through the first 2 games at center, how impressed are you with his performance?
I mean, there's another guy right there just unbelievable through. We'll get Mason back here soon, but to see Garrett transition when he did, there a few weeks into camp, and take it on and own not only playing the center position and snapping, but being a leader on that line, and what he has been for that room, him, Cade, Ben. I mean, to be honest with you, that mentality that they've built and the identity they've built in the O-line room, that is something that we're excited about and excited to see how that keeps going. And there's, guys in that room too that aren't playing right now, that aren't in the top 5, and we've been playing 6 that are coming along as well. And so it's been awesome to see Garrett. Really excited about not only what he's doing on the field, but how he's leading. I mean, he's a leader for this whole team, not just the offense. Like, I mean, Garrett does a tremendous job each and every day coming here, and it's a perfect example for, all three phases of our team.
You guys have had a number of 10 a.m. games now over the years. How have you kind of fine-tuned the schedule for that, and in terms of getting ready for the game? And what time do you guys meet on Saturday morning?
Bright and early, Saturday morning. 4:30, the alarms go off on Saturday morning, which, to be honest with you guys, it's probably about an hour earlier than what they normally do for the players on a Tuesday, Wednesday practice, or a morning operation. So a lot of our guys are here fairly early on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 6:15 to get something to eat, get their bodies ready to go. We're building in, again, part of that process and the preparation, being a morning operation team with the structure of how school schedules are these days. It's better for us. So fortunately enough, when we get these 10 a.m. games, it's slightly earlier than what we would normally operate on a Tuesday and Wednesday morning, which still calls for, urgency bright and early. I'm not saying it's easy, but at least we operate in the mornings throughout the course of the week.
What do you not do or can't do? Even if, say, the game was at noon or 1 o'clock, you'd have less time if you're playing at, say, 6. So what doesn't happen that would happen on a game that would be a late start?
Yeah, so there's always a morning session of, the coaches getting with the players, and it's not, intense or anything of that nature, but there's still always a morning session that we get in with the players after breakfast. I mean, it's morning start. You get up, and by 4:50, you're on the bus rolling this way. So there's not a lot of time, but besides getting in, the things that we usually do within that first 5-hour window of the game is really what it comes down to. And so, when we look at putting this schedule together, it's getting obviously the guys to bed a little bit earlier the night before, and getting them up in the morning, and the guys having an understanding when our 2 feet hit the ground on Saturday morning, it's time to roll.
Rod, I know he's a guy that loves to watch film, and Spencer's joke that, Rodney will text me at 11:30 at night, have you seen this, or what do you think of this? Like, as a guy that watches so much film and tries to anticipate things versus one that also makes sure he checks the box on his 111, like, how fine can that line be?
It can be really fine. Checking the box on the 111th is way more important, and that's our focus now. And it's not just with one player. The focus with everybody on defense is making sure we're checking our 111th before we're trying to anticipate too much and then obviously falling out of place. So that's been a huge emphasis, and not only when we're on the field, but how we watch film. How we watch film, too. Is a big part of winning the pre-snap, being on the same page within the shell of the defense, and then being able to execute our 111th once that ball snapped.
You mentioned the crowd, how great it was. We saw later in the game with the lights flashing and stuff, for that final drive. How much do you 10 a.m. game, an FCS team, I mean, the record, how badly do you need them to still show up on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's Bronco Nation is, the love and the passion for our players and our team. I mean, that's what playing in Albertson Stadium, that's what makes it special. That's what makes it special for our players, obviously for the recruits that get to come to the games and experience that stuff. We've been able to recruit well the last couple of years. A lot of these guys are playing. A lot of these young players are playing for us right now early on in the season through the opponents we played. We've talked about true freshmen. We've talked about red shirts that are playing. A big part of not only the game day atmosphere for the competition, the loudness, for the defense being on the field. It's the 12th man for us, especially when the defense is on the field and the home field advantage of the noise. And then obviously the game day environment. It's special, and the people that come here, the recruits that come here talk about how special it is to go in those stadiums. These recruits get to go into a lot of different stadiums and go on trips and stuff like that, and where Bronco Nation has definitely set us apart from many.
Does the training staff, dealing with cramps, do you guys have any tricks for that? I know I've heard pickle juice in the past, just when a player like Talon, has those, what can you guys do about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's various things you can do, but I mean, ultimately, the hydration process, we got to be more efficient and proactive with that on the front side. There's plenty of hydration mixes, whether it's pickle juice or probably some things that are a little bit more efficient too that our training staff has, that, you know, being able to get that into a player's system is critical at that point. But obviously it starts with being proactive and make sure where we are where we need to be before the game.
What was the communication with you and Taylor? I know Bush is up top. You know, how heartbroken was he that he wasn't able to go back and finish that game and try to get you guys that win?
Yeah, no question. I mean, fortunate enough, I think he was excited. Obviously, the Mad Dogs stepped up. I mean, those guys were celebrating together after the last offensive drive there. Again, we got a team that cares about each other, and when something like that happens, next man up mentality, and you know, we see that on both sides of the ball, as we talked about. You know, DJ and Marco and those guys. So obviously competitors want to be in there, and TG wanted to be in there. But he'll be ready to roll this week. We'll make sure that that's not a factor in it.
You touched on this, but maybe you could expand on it a little bit. You obviously forced UCF into 4 field goals. You know, does that give us a glimpse of maybe what this defense could do moving forward?
That's definitely a big part in playing in the red zone. We've talked about this before. The depth of the field isn't there, the width of the field is, so everything happens faster in the red zone. It requires you to communicate. There's a lot of pre-snap movers. There's motions one way and things shooting out of formation the other way. And so that was a good sign right there to see how we played with our eye control and our communication down there. Now, there were still situations where we were able to get pressure on double passes or whatever when we didn't play with good eye control. So it's still visible down there, but we were able to get pressure on, you know, a tailback getting ready to throw the ball to a wide receiver on a double pass. So those things are still visible there. It's a consistency of doing it all the time. Not only there now, but also out in the open field. You know, some of those things showed up in the 2-minute drive too, and so we'll be able to continue to build as we move forward on make sure that we're executing our 111th, and we'll be much more efficient and successful when we do that.
Anything else? From you know, a fan standpoint, there might be a misconception about kind of the difference between FBS and FCS. You know, how close are those two levels?
Well, we've seen, I mean, if you pay attention to college football, you see what's going on. You know, you see FCS teams beat, you know, FBS teams. It happens. It's not out of the regular. So that's why, especially a team that is ranked where they are. We saw some close games this past week. If you're paying attention to scores, we're in the non-conference part of the year, so you're seeing teams play different levels and stuff like that. At the end of the day, like, it's college football. Any team can win any day. You know, the better prepared team has got the best shot. The team that's more consistent on game day and execute got the best shot to get it done. Good.
Ashton Jeanty's 3rd in America in scrimmage yards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that something that's in play for this to keep going, you hope? I mean, obviously, when other guys come back, it might diminish, but are you expecting now Ashton Jeanty to have this type of year at season's end, to be up there with some of the best in the country?
Yeah, I mean, the production, we don't want the production to stop, right? So we can't wait to get some of our other guys back, you know, into the fold. But the production and the opportunities, the touches, that's game plan weekly. That's not that's always going to be a feature. Obviously, being able to get other guys back and involved is going to be a huge part of it too. And obviously, as we spoke about, the balance that goes along with that too within the pass game, and then what is that going to do to defenses, and how are they going to respond to the personnel on the field? How are they going to decide to play the personnel on the field in certain formations like that? Obviously, opening up different avenues in the offense.
Anything else? All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you guys.